Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're going where no podcast has gone before,
Yeah.
to the lunar South Pole with Artemis III. And our guide for this journey is this awesome NASA article. Just skimming through it, honestly, had me totally geeking out. Think about it. Humans are going back to the moon after all this time, and not just anywhere. We're talking about the South Pole, a place that's practically untouched. So many questions. What's down there? What kind of challenges are they going to face? Let's find out.
You're absolutely right about Artemis III being more than just a return mission. It's really about pushing those boundaries in every way. I mean, just consider this. It's the first crewed lunar landing since the Apollo missions. That's over 50 years ago. And to make it even more historic, we're talking about landing at the South Pole, a place just shrouded in mystery and full of incredible scientific promise.
50 years.
Yeah.
That's like multiple generations. It's incredible. And what really gets me is the crew. We're talking about the first woman and the first person of color to walk on the moon. That's just huge, not just for space exploration, but for all of humanity.
Yeah, it really does highlight how far we've come and how Artemis is about inclusivity, just as much as it is about scientific advancement.
Totally. All right, so we've got this groundbreaking crew, a brand new target on the moon. But how do they even get there? This NASA article lays out the whole journey. And let me tell you, it's not exactly a quick hop over to the moon.
Definitely not your average commute. It all starts with that absolute powerhouse of a rocket, the Space Launch System, or SLS for short. This thing is specifically designed to hurl humans and cargo way beyond Earth's orbit, which is exactly what we need for a lunar mission. And they'll launch from Kennedy Space Center, same as the Apollo missions. From there, they'll be inside the Orion spacecraft, built for those long-haul deep space trips. And of course, for the pretty intense return trip through Earth's atmosphere.
Okay, so SLS launches. Orion detaches. Then what? They don't just like point at the moon and hit the gas, right?
No, you're right about that. There's a lot more finesse involved. It's a carefully choreographed ballet. They'll first reach Earth orbit, and then Orion separates from the rocket and begins its journey toward the moon. But here's the thing. It's not a direct path. They're using this special orbit. It's called the Near Rectilinear Halo Orbit, or NRHO for short.
NRHO. Sounds complicated.
It is. But the reason they use it is pretty simple. Fuel efficiency. This orbit is carefully calculated. It basically leverages the moon's gravity to make the journey much more efficient.
Okay, so NRHO saves fuel. I get that. But how does it actually work?
Essentially, NRHO uses the moon's gravity to keep Orion in a stable orbit. It's kind of between the Earth and the moon. Think of it like, I don't know, maybe like a dance between the spacecraft and the moon's gravitational pull. And this specific orbit, it's not just about saving fuel, it's about positioning too. NRHO allows for constant communication with Earth, and it provides access to different points on the lunar surface, which is key for a mission like Artemis III.
So, NRHO. It's like their cosmic parking spot. They just hang out up there, chatting with Earth, waiting for... What exactly, I mean, how do they get from this fancy orbit all the way down to the surface?
That's where things get even more interesting. Let me introduce you to SpaceX's Starship, a spacecraft unlike anything we've seen before. It's designed for landing on the moon and then returning to orbit multiple times. Think of it as a lunar ferry service.
The lunar ferry. Okay, now that's an image I can get behind. So walk me through this. How does Starship fit into this whole Artemis III picture?
Okay, so before our crew even launches, Starship will have already pre-positioned a depot full of fuel in Earth orbit. Then Starship itself refuels while it's in orbit using this depot, and then makes its own journey to the moon. So by the time Orion and the astronauts arrive in NRHO, Starship is waiting for them, already docked to a lunar lander.
Hold on. We've got Orion,
Yeah.
Starship, a lunar lander,
Yeah.
and this whole complex dance is happening thousands of miles from Earth.
It's a testament to the collaboration and the precision involved in a mission of this scale. It's incredible, really. So once Orion and Starship meet up in NRHO, two of the astronauts will transfer over to Starship, and then they prepare for that final descent to the lunar surface. And that is where our deep dive gets really exciting. Touching down at the lunar South Pole, you know it's easy to get lost in all the technology and the engineering of a mission like Artemis III. But we can't forget the real driving force behind it all, scientific discovery. The lunar South Pole, it's like this giant, untouched laboratory. And this mission is going to unlock some secrets.
Yeah?
Secrets that could completely rewrite our understanding.
Of the moon.
Right.
And maybe even the solar system.
Absolutely. Even just reading this NASA article, it's so clear that the South Pole is this incredibly unique place. It's almost alien. It's harsh. It's challenging. But it's also just teeming with scientific potential. Exactly. We're talking about a region that experiences these really extended periods of darkness. And the temperatures, they can plummet to some seriously extreme lows. I mean, some of those deep craters down there haven't seen sunlight for billions of years.
Oh,
And yeah, those conditions make it super difficult for humans to explore. But they also create the perfect environment for preserving something incredibly valuable, water ice.
water ice on the moon. Okay, now I'm really picturing myself down there. I'm in my super advanced Axiom spacesuit, trekking through these dark craters. And suddenly, I stumble upon a massive sheet of ice, glimmering in the darkness.
Well, maybe not a massive sheet, but yeah,
Yeah.
you get the idea. The possibility of finding significant amounts of water ice is one of the most exciting aspects of this whole mission. And it's not just about satisfying scientific curiosity, it's about resources.
Resources, you mean, like
Okay.
for future lunar bases.
Exactly. If we find enough water ice, it could be the key to establishing a sustainable human presence on the moon. Think about it. Water is essential for life support, obviously, but it can also be broken down into its components, hydrogen and oxygen.
Wait a second. Hydrogen and oxygen, isn't that rocket fuel?
Bingo! Water ice on the moon could be the key to turning it into a refueling station for missions that go further into space, like Mars. Suddenly, the moon isn't just an end destination, it becomes a stepping stone, a launch pad for exploring deeper into the cosmos.
That's mind-blowing. So by going back to the moon, we're actually taking this giant leap toward reaching Mars, and
Huh?
maybe even beyond. Okay, I am officially hooked on this water ice thing. But let's bring it back to the mission itself. We've got our astronauts on the surface. They're all bundled up in those fancy new spacesuits, ready to explore what's on their to-do list.
Their activities are going to be very carefully planned out. It's all about maximizing that scientific return, so they'll be deploying instruments to study the lunar environment, they'll be conducting geological surveys, trying to understand the history of the South Pole, and most importantly, they'll be collecting a really diverse range of samples, rocks, soil, and if they're lucky, maybe even some ice cores.
Oh, so they're like lunar detectives, gathering all these clues to piece together the moon's past and all this data they're collecting. It's not just staying on the moon, right? We'll be able to follow along with all the discoveries back here on Earth.
Oh, absolutely. NASA has invested a ton in communication technologies to make sure there's this constant stream of information flowing between the moon and mission control. I'm talking high-definition images, video feeds, real-time data from all those instruments they're deploying. It's going to be amazing. Like, we're right there with them, experiencing the mission alongside the astronauts.
Yeah, it reminds me of when Perseverance landed on Mars and we got those incredible first images. Almost instantly, the whole world was captivated. There's something so powerful about that, about sharing those moments of discovery.
I completely agree. It really transcends borders and cultures. It's this reminder that we're all part of this incredible journey of exploration. And just imagine seeing humans walk on the moon again, exploring this completely uncharted territory. It's going to inspire a whole new generation of scientists, engineers, dreamers. It's planting a seed that will hopefully blossom for years to come.
Makes you wonder what those future generations will achieve.
Right.
Maybe they'll be the ones setting up those lunar bases, or maybe even
Yeah.
taking those first steps on Mars.
It's an exciting thought. But for now, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We've covered the journey to the moon, the landing, the science goals. But every adventure has to end. Every adventure has its return trip. So, how do our lunar explorers get back home after their grand adventure at the South Pole?
Yes, the grand finale. Tell us, how do they say farewell to the moon and make that epic journey back to Earth?
Well, it's not as simple as just hopping back in Starship and blasting off. Remember, they only took the lander portion down to the surface, so to return to Earth, they need to reunite with Orion, which has been patiently waiting for them up in NRHO.
Okay, so picture this. The astronauts have completed their surface mission. They've gathered their samples, said their goodbyes to the lunar landscape. What happens next?
They fire up those engines on Starship's lander and lift off from the lunar surface. It's a short trip, but crucial. Back up to lunar orbit, where Orion has been circling patiently, keeping a watchful eye on its crew.
It's like a cosmic reunion. Up there in the vastness of space, Orion sees Starship coming in, they dock, then what?
The lunar samples are carefully transferred over to Orion, and our astronauts settle back in to their familiar spacecraft for the long journey home. And let me tell you, this return trip, it's just as intricate and fascinating as the journey to the moon.
Intricate in what way? What are the challenges of getting back from the moon, it seems like? It should be easier, now that they're heading towards Earth's gravity.
You'd think so. But remember, they're starting from lunar orbit, not the lunar surface. to break free of the moon's gravitational pull and set course for Earth. Orion needs a serious boost of speed, and that's where things get really clever.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What's the secret sauce for getting Orion back on track for home?
It's all about orbital mechanics and a technique called slingshot maneuver, essentially. Orion uses the moon's gravity to its advantage by performing a carefully timed engine burn. As it passes behind the moon, it can essentially steal some of the moon's orbital energy, giving it that extra velocity it needs for the return journey.
A lunar slingshot. I love it. It's like a cosmic shortcut, using the moon's own gravity to fling Orion back towards Earth. It's amazing how we can use these celestial mechanics to our advantage.
It really is. It highlights the ingenuity of the mission planners and our understanding of how objects move in space. This slingshot maneuver not only saves fuel, but it also significantly reduces the travel time back to Earth.
So after this lunar slingshot, is it smooth sailing all the way back home? They just sit back, relax, and enjoy the view of Earth getting bigger and bigger.
Not quite. While the slingshots is a crucial step, the journey back to Earth still takes several days, and there are numerous course corrections and adjustments along the way. And then, of course, there's the grand finale, that fiery re-entry into Earth's atmosphere.
Oh yeah, I was just about to ask about that. The re-entry. That's got to be the most visually dramatic part of the whole mission.
It's definitely a sight to behold. As Orion plunges through the atmosphere at thousands of miles per hour, the friction with the air generates this intense heat, causing the spacecraft's heat shield to glow red hot.
So it's literally like a shooting star streaking across the sky.
It really is, and it's a testament to the engineering of that heat shield, that it can withstand those extreme temperatures and protect the crew inside. The heat shield is absolutely critical for a safe return.
And then, finally, the moment we've all been waiting for, splashdown. After weeks in space, our lunar explorers return to Earth, greeted by cheers, celebrations, and probably a very large team of scientists, eager to get their hands on those lunar samples.
Exactly. Orion will deploy a series of parachutes to slow its descent, and eventually, it'll splash down gently in the Pacific Ocean, where a recovery team will be waiting to retrieve the crew and their precious cargo. It marks the culmination of years of planning, preparation, and just unwavering dedication from countless individuals.
It really hits home that this mission is so much bigger than just those few astronauts on board. It's this massive undertaking involving thousands of people working behind the scenes to make it all happen. It's a testament to what we can achieve when we set our minds to something truly ambitious.
You said it perfectly, but before we get too caught up in all the celebrations, remember that Artemis III isn't an isolated event. It's a crucial step in a much larger journey, a journey that will ultimately lead us to Mars and beyond.
I think we're about ready to make that jump to Mars. But first, let's take a moment to reflect on everything we've uncovered. In this deep dive into Artemis III, we've journeyed to the lunar South Pole, explored the science, the technology, and just the sheer audacity of this incredible endeavor. But now, as we prepare for our final descent back to Earth, we want to leave you with something to ponder, something to spark your imagination. We've talked about this incredible feat of engineering and human courage that Artemis III represents. But I kind of want to shift gears here a little bit and look ahead. What do you think the long-term impact of this mission will be? I mean, what could the lunar South Pole look like, say, a century from now?
Wow, a century from now? That's a fascinating question. Right now, it's this pristine, almost alien environment, but in 100 years, it's hard to say for sure, but we can definitely let our imaginations run wild.
Okay, so I'm picturing it. Instead of just this lone landing site, maybe there's a bustling international research base, scientists from all over the world working together, constantly making new discoveries about the moon and the universe.
I love that. A permanent lunar outpost, humming with activity. It would be a testament to how far we've come. And who knows, maybe it's not just scientists, maybe there's even a lunar hotel nearby, catering to those adventurous tourists who want to experience the wonders of the South Pole firsthand.
Lunar tourism. I can definitely see that happening. Can you imagine the view from a moon base hotel, looking out over those vast shadowed craters with the Earth hanging in the sky like a giant blue marble?
It would be breathtaking. And those craters, the ones in perpetual darkness, they might be home to something even more incredible. They're ideal locations for these super powerful telescopes, far more sensitive than anything we could build on Earth. Just imagine the discoveries we could make, peering deep into the universe from the lunar South Pole.
We could unlock secrets about the early universe, maybe even find evidence of life beyond Earth. Speaking of which, I was reading that those permanently shadowed regions, they could hold clues to the origins of life itself. something about organic molecules, trapped in ice for billions of years.
It's true. The conditions at the South Pole, they're like a time capsule. Preserving these materials from the early solar system, analyzing those samples, could completely revolutionize our understanding of how life arose, not just on Earth, but potentially on other worlds as well.
Okay, mind officially blown. And all of this sparked by this single mission, this single step back onto the lunar surface. It's a powerful reminder that exploration, it's not just about reaching a destination, it's about opening up these endless possibilities.
I think that's a key takeaway for our listeners, Artemis III. It's this powerful symbol of human ambition, ingenuity, and our drive to push the boundaries of what's possible. It shows us that the future of space exploration is filled with extraordinary potential, just waiting to be unlocked.
It's also a powerful reminder that this is a journey for all of humanity. We talked about the diverse crew of Artemis III, and I think that spirit of inclusivity is essential as we venture further into space. It's not about one nation or one group of people. It's about all of us working together to explore the universe and unravel its mysteries.
Absolutely. Artemis III is just the beginning. It's lighting the path for future generations, inspiring them to reach for the stars and continue this incredible journey of discovery.
So everyone listening, as you go about your day, as you look up at the moon in the night sky, remember Artemis III. Remember the courage of those astronauts, the ingenuity of the scientists and engineers who made it all possible, and the boundless potential of human exploration.
Keep looking up, keep asking questions, and never stop exploring. The universe is filled with wonder, and the journey, it's only just begun.
And that's a wrap on this episode of The Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us on this journey to the lunar South Pole and beyond. Until next time, keep diving deep with us.